stop. Don't just listen to this. Go to your kitchen right now and think about what you reheated yesterday. Because if you're doing what most of my patients over 60 are doing, this is not harmless. And just hearing this video won't change anything unless you actually act on it. I've been practicing medicine for over 25 years, and I used to believe what most doctors still say, that erectile problems in older men are mainly about age, hormones, maybe circulation slowing down a bit. But a few years ago, something happened that forced me to rethink everything. A patient, 71 years old, relatively healthy, came in with a complaint I hear all the time. "Doctor, I'm losing firmness, thus it's just not the same anymore." No pain, no major disease, just that quiet, frustrating decline. What surprised me was that I couldn't fix it the usual way. We tried the standard approaches, medication, supplements, even lifestyle tweaks. Some worked briefly, most didn't. And I remember thinking, something doesn't add up here. Then one day, almost by accident, I started asking about something most doctors don't pay attention to, how he handled leftovers. That's when everything shifted for me, because what I discovered wasn't about hormones at all. It was about blood flow being quietly damaged by everyday foods, reheated the wrong way. And the part most men misunderstand is this: it's not what you eat once, it's what you reheat again and again. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 4 specific foods that are silently reducing blood flow to your penis, and why stopping this one habit can make a difference faster than you think. And this next part matters more than most people realize, because it explains why these specific foods are quietly damaging your blood flow over time. If you're curious about the deeper science behind it, I've added more details in the description below. But before we go further, quick question. How old are you? I read every comment, and it genuinely helps me understand who I'm speaking to. All right, let's get into it. Here's the first food you should never reheat if you care about maintaining strong blood flow. 1. Processed meats. Here's a simple rule most people ignore. If it's processed meat, don't reheat it. Eat it once fresh or don't eat it at all. That sounds almost too basic, right? But this one habit alone can make a noticeable difference, especially for men over 60. Starting today, if you have leftover bacon, sausage, ham, or deli meat, don't throw it back in the microwave. Either eat it cold occasionally or, better yet, avoid saving it in the first place and cook smaller portions. Now here's why something this simple actually matters more than you think. Processed meats are preserved with compounds called nitrates and nitrites, and when you heat them, especially a second time, they can form substances called nitrosamines. You don't need to remember that word, just understand what they do. They damage the inner lining of your blood vessels. And that lining is responsible for producing nitric oxide, the exact molecule your body needs to relax vessels and allow blood to flow where it's supposed to go. As men get older, that system is already under pressure. Blood vessels become less flexible, circulation slows down, and nitric oxide production naturally declines. So when you repeatedly add foods that further damage that system, even in small amounts, the effect builds up. Over time, this doesn't just affect your heart, it directly impacts your ability to achieve and maintain a firm erection, because that process is entirely dependent on healthy blood flow. There have been observational studies showing that men who consume higher amounts of processed meats tend to have a significantly greater risk of vascular issues, including erectile dysfunction, with some data suggesting increases in risk around 30% or more. On the flip side, reducing processed meat intake has been linked to improvements in endothelial function, the health of your blood vessels, within just a few weeks. That means better circulation overall, and for many men, that translates into more consistent performance. So here's how to apply this in real life. Limit processed meats to no more than once or twice a week, avoid reheating them completely, and if you do eat them, pair them with fresh vegetables to support circulation. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency, because the damage doesn't happen overnight and neither does the recovery, but your body is always responding to what you do daily. And what's interesting is, this is just the beginning. because the next food most men reheat without thinking may be doing even more silent damage to your blood vessels than processed meat ever could. 2. Reheated oils and fried foods. Here's the upgrade to what we just talked about, and I want you to take this seriously because it goes deeper. A simple step you can start today is this: never reuse cooking oil and never reheat fried food, especially not in the microwave. If you have leftover fried chicken, fries, or anything cooked in oil, either eat it fresh once or reheat it gently in the oven at low heat, around 300 degrees Fahrenheit for a few minutes, just enough to warm it through without burning the surface. It sounds small, but this one adjustment changes what happens inside your body at a chemical level. Now let me explain the central mechanism, and I'll keep it simple. When oil is heated the first time, especially vegetable oils like soybean, corn, or sunflower, the fat molecules begin to break down through a process called lipid oxidation. That produces compounds like aldehydes and oxidized fats, which are highly reactive. When you reheat that same oil, or the food soaked in it, you're not starting from zero, you're continuing the damage, and those compounds increase exponentially, not linearly. From a modern medical perspective, these oxidized compounds attack the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, reducing nitric oxide and increasing inflammation. From a traditional perspective, especially in Eastern medicine, this is described as creating internal heat and stagnation in the blood, meaning circulation becomes sluggish and blocked. And when you combine both views, you start to see the same outcome described in different languages. Blood is no longer flowing freely. There are studies showing that repeatedly heated oils can increase oxidative stress markers by over 40% and endothelial dysfunction markers by more than 25% in controlled settings. Another line of research links frequent consumption of deep-fried foods with a significantly higher risk of vascular disease and erectile dysfunction, especially in older men whose systems are already more vulnerable. The risk compounds when two factors come together: degraded oil plus high heat, because that synergy produces even more toxic byproducts than either factor alone. So here's how you apply this without overcomplicating your life. Use oil once, discard it, and favor stable fats like olive oil for low to medium heat cooking. If you're used to reheating fried food daily, start by cutting it down to every other day, then phase it out over 1 to 2 weeks so your routine adjusts naturally. This onboarding approach makes it sustainable, not overwhelming, especially if you've been doing it for years. Because here's the truth most people miss. This kind of damage doesn't show up immediately, but it builds quietly, day after day, meal after meal. And if you think this is already concerning, wait until you see what happens when certain convenient foods combine multiple damaging factors at once. That's where things escalate even further. 3. Reheated fast food. Here's where things start to move faster, and I mean within hours, not years. If you take one action today, make it this: stop reheating fast food leftovers. No microwaving pizza, no reheated fried chicken, no day-old burgers. If you absolutely have to reheat something, do it once, in the oven at a low temperature, and never more than 24 hours later, but ideally don't reheat fast food at all because of what happens to it after the first cook. The main compound I want you to understand here is oxidized LDL, often called damaged cholesterol. When fast food, already high in processed fats and refined carbs, is reheated, especially in a microwave, the fats degrade further and interact with sugars, accelerating the formation of oxidized LDL in your bloodstream. The process is simple. You eat it, your body absorbs these altered fats, and within hours they begin interfering with endothelial function, the same system responsible for regulating blood flow. Now here's the part most men never hear. Studies have shown that a single high-fat fast food meal can reduce endothelial function by up to 24% within just 2 to 4 hours. Another study observed that markers of oxidative stress can spike by over 30% after consuming reheated, processed, high-fat meals, especially in older adults. That means the effect isn't theoretical. It's happening the same day, sometimes the same afternoon. You eat it. And this is where it becomes personal for men over 60. Your blood vessels are already less responsive, nitric oxide production is lower, and recovery takes longer. So when you introduce oxidized fats into that system, you're not just slowing things down, you're blocking the signal your body needs to create and maintain an erection. At the same time, this also affects your energy levels, leaving you feeling heavier, more fatigued, and less physically responsive overall. Now, some people say, it's just easier, I don't want to waste food. I understand that. But if you feel sluggish, bloated, or unusually tired after eating reheated fast food, that's not just discomfort. That's your body reacting to oxidative stress. That reaction is a signal, not a coincidence. And once you remove that habit, many men notice improvements in both energy and responsiveness within days, not months. Here's how to apply it simply. Avoid reheating fast food altogether, limit intake to once a week or less, and if you're transitioning, start by cutting portions in half and replacing one reheated meal per day with something fresh. This gives your body space to recover while still being realistic. Because what we've talked about so far is damage from heat and fat. But the next part is completely different, and it involves a food most people think is healthy, yet when handled the wrong way, it triggers a chemical reaction few men ever see coming. 4. Reheated nitrate-rich greens. This might sound a little extreme, but try this for the next few days. If you cook spinach, celery, or beet greens, don't reheat them. Eat them cold the next day or cook them fresh again. Most people think reheating vegetables is harmless, even healthy. But with nitrate-rich greens, the chemistry changes in a way that works against your blood flow instead of helping it. Here's the deeper mechanism, and it's more layered than the others. These vegetables naturally contain nitrates, which your body can convert into nitric oxide, the molecule that improves circulation. But once cooked and stored, bacteria begin converting nitrates into nitrites, and when you reheat them, those nitrites can form nitrosamines, the same compound we mentioned earlier, but now coming from a food you thought was helping you. The pathway looks like this: nitrate to nitrite to nitrosamine, and that final step is triggered by heat. What makes this more concerning is that it affects both large blood vessels and microcirculation. Studies have shown that proper nitrate intake from fresh vegetables can improve blood flow efficiency by up to 20%. But when converted into nitrosamines, those benefits are not just lost, they can reverse direction. Another set of data suggests that repeated exposure to nitrosamine-forming conditions can impair endothelial function by over 15%, especially in older adults. You might notice this in subtle ways: colder hands, slight numbness in the feet, slower healing of small cuts, or just a general sense that your circulation isn't what it used to be. These are not random signs, they often point to microvascular changes happening beneath the surface. And for men over 60, that same microcirculation plays a role in how effectively blood reaches where it matters most. So here's how to use these foods the right way. Eat nitrate-rich greens fresh, or if cooked, consume them within a few hours without reheating. If you're used to eating them daily, keep doing that, but shift the timing. Prepare smaller portions and avoid long storage. Start with 1 serving a day, then build up to 2, focusing on freshness over quantity because temperature and time are what determine whether these compounds help you or harm you. One quick safety note: if you have specific medical conditions or are on nitrate-based medications, always check with your doctor before making major changes. But for most people, this adjustment is both simple and powerful. And now that you've seen how even healthy foods can shift depending on how you use them, the final piece ties everything together in a way most men never consider. And it explains why these 4 habits combined can quietly shut down blood flow over time. 5. Why do all of these lead to erectile decline? This may sound a bit unusual, but here's something I often tell my patients to try for just 1 week. Build at least 1 meal a day around fresh, unprocessed foods that support blood flow and completely remove reheated, high-risk foods during that time. Not forever, just 7 days, so your body has a chance to reset. It sounds simple, but what you're really doing is restoring a single molecule that controls everything we've been talking about. That molecule is nitric oxide, and it's the central switch for blood flow in your body. Every time you see damage from reheated meats, oils, or fast food, the pathway leads back to this. Nitric oxide is reduced, and compounds like oxidative radicals and nitrosamines interfere with its production. The chain looks like this. Oxidative stress increases, the endothelium becomes inflamed, nitric oxide drops, and blood vessels lose their ability to relax and open properly. What does that mean in real terms? Blood doesn't just need to move, it needs to move efficiently through both large arteries and tiny microvessels. Research has shown that reduced nitric oxide availability can decrease endothelial function by over 20%. And in older adults, microcirculation efficiency can drop by 15% or more when oxidative stress is elevated. That affects everything from heart performance to how quickly oxygen reaches tissues, including the tissue responsible for erection. You may already feel early signs without realizing it: cold hands, tingling in the feet, slower healing after minor cuts, or fatigue that seems out of proportion to your activity. These are signals that both your large vessel flow and microcirculation are under stress. And for men over 60, this system is already more fragile, so the margin for error becomes smaller. So here's how you begin restoring it. Start with 1 clean meal per day for the first 3 days, then move to 2 meals by the end of the week, focusing on fresh foods, moderate temperatures, and avoiding repeated heating. Timing matters. Eat within a few hours of cooking, avoid prolonged storage, and give your body consistent inputs so it can rebuild function gradually. One safety note: if you're on medications that affect blood pressure or nitrates, consult your physician before making major dietary changes. But for most men, this approach is both safe and effective when done progressively. Because once nitric oxide begins to recover, something interesting happens. And in the final part, I'm going to show you how to lock that improvement in place so it doesn't fade again. 6. Simple solution. If you're looking for the most effective habit to rebuild blood flow naturally, this is where I would start. Not a pill, not a complicated routine, just one simple combination: unsweetened raw cocoa mixed with warm water. It may sound basic, but the active compounds in cocoa, especially flavonols like epicatechin, have a direct and measurable effect on nitric oxide production. Think of nitric oxide like a signal that tells your blood vessels to open, and cocoa acts like turning that signal back on. Studies have shown that high flavanol cocoa can improve endothelial function by up to 30 to 40% within weeks, and in some trials, blood flow responses improved in just a few hours after consumption. Another comparison found that regular intake of cocoa flavanols produced vascular benefits similar in direction, though not identical, to some standard medications without the same side effects. Here's how to do it properly. Use 1 to 2 teaspoons, 5 to 10 grams of unsweetened raw cocoa powder. Mix it into warm water around 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, not boiling, to preserve the compounds, and drink it once daily, preferably in the morning or early afternoon. If you're new, start with half a teaspoon for a few days to let your system adjust, then increase. This isn't a quick fix. It's a daily signal to your body to restore circulation over time. It's inexpensive, easy to find, and simple to prepare. And the most important part, your body can still respond even after 60, even after 70, if you give it the right input consistently. No drugs, low cost, and backed by real physiology. That's how you rebuild from the inside out. If this video helped you see something you hadn't noticed before, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. In this channel, we break down real science into simple, practical habits that men over 60 can actually use, especially when it comes to blood flow, energy, and maintaining strength over time. Everything we share is designed to be clear, realistic, and based on how the body truly works as we age. Thanks for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you in the next video where we go even deeper.